welcome everybody back to the Listen Up podcast. I'm JT with Trapper Barnes. Trapper, how are you today?
Great, JT. How are you?
Man, I tell you what, I'm good. I'm good. You know, you said something in our last episode that I really wanted to dig into that today because we've encouraged people, we've challenged people to step up, to identify a challenge that they've got going on in their life.
Yeah.
We challenge them to write it up. You know, throw out some goals, put it on a piece of paper. And then we encourage them to take the next step in the journey, which would be to shape up and shape up physically. Go for a walk. Take one small step towards something that can have an impact on all of the areas of growth. But you said something in our last podcast, man, that it just hit me right between the eyes. You talked about the importance of a circle. And I think the appropriate upism for today would be one that we use all the time, which is circle up. Man, what can you tell our listeners about the importance of the circle that you surround yourself with?
Yeah, thanks for bringing that back up because it is very important I think in everyday life. And I believe that you surround yourself with 5 or so most influential people, and they will influence the way that you are in your life. Whether it be if you surround yourself with entrepreneurs, guess what? They're going to make you a better entrepreneur. If you surround yourself with people that work out, they're going to make you a better person to work out, right? You're going to get in better shape. You surround yourself with a bunch of losers, guess what? You're probably going to follow that track, right?
Yeah.
And no offense, but that's just how it is. They influence you to make great decisions. They influence you to make bad decisions.
Yeah, that's true. And then you know what I think what's also important for us to point out is that there are definitely people there have been times in my life that I've been surrounded with people that were going nowhere, and as a result, I too went nowhere.
Right.
But then as I began to improve my circle and to surround myself with people that had, similar goals and similar, desires, what I also found out that people are at different seasons of life. And so I think it's important that we don't misinterpret a loser for somebody that's just in a different part of life.
Absolutely.
There have been seasons of life where it's like, hey, I really want to focus on my physical.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't mean you have to, completely give the Heisman to somebody that's not there. But the importance of those 5 people around you with very similar goals, that, like, to your point, man, that takes you to the next level. So, really important to be honest with yourself. That's something that we keep coming back to, like, to really be honest with yourself and say, like, okay, based on this season of life that I'm in, like, what can I do to up the average of the circle? And I say up the average because it's been said by people far more famous than anyone I've ever met that you are the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. So it would make sense that relative to the season that you're in, like, what increases the average?
Yeah. Well, one other thing, as we're sitting here just kind of talking about this, right? What I've learned over the years and what I've been taught from other people that are way more influential than I am. So it's once you find yourself being the smartest, the most impactful, the most influential in your group, go find another group to join. Don't get rid of that group, but find 5 other people that could encourage you and grow you in another way.
Yeah, that reminds me of something that I heard once. You should always be mentoring someone, and you should always receive mentoring from someone. And like, when you said that, I immediately thought about, if you find yourself in the circle and you've become the mentor, that's an awesome role to be in.
Absolutely.
Like, it's an honor.
Yeah.
But you need that new circle, or you need to add to that circle so that you're getting challenged and you're being challenged to grow, held accountable about growth, inspired to grow. Have you ever found yourself, because I know everybody's out there listening and right now they're immediately talking about, like, ooh, what's my circle like? What's my circle? Like, who's in my circle? What's in my circle? Do I have a circle?
Right.
That's something we've got to hit on. Like, if you,
who do I want in my circle?
That's exactly right.
Who do I want to keep in my circle?
Absolutely. So, have you ever found yourself in life in a circle that you like, man, you just had to get out of it?
Yeah. Yeah, I have. Fortunately, I was in a group where I was going nowhere. I wasn't getting inspired. I wasn't making the best decisions. It wasn't moving. Um, it wasn't moving me in a direction that I wanted to be in, whether in a leadership role, in my entrepreneurial, spirit, in my family life, right?
Right.
And so I had to really kind of pull back the curtain and go, is this really where you want to be? Now, sometimes when you do that, friendships end, but other times friendships get better.
Yeah.
You start to grow other people as well. They realize, I don't really want to be in this circle either.
Yeah, I can identify with that. And you know this. I grew up in a fantastic family. Still have a fantastic family. You were challenged. You were loved. You were encouraged. You were held accountable. Like, there is no excuse. Like, I don't have a story where I grew up with nothing. In fact, I grew up with everything.
Yeah.
What I found was that as I got out of high school and started my college years and then moved into that season, the life didn't turn out the way I had planned, right? And so what I found was that my circle had really deteriorated. It was not up to the standard that had been set, gratefully set by my family. And I remember that process. And I didn't have some big dramatic, I didn't make a phone call to say, hey, you're not in my circle anymore. What I did was I just one by one began to just through conversation, through whatever the case may be. It happened truly organically. But that circle started to change. And as my circle changed, my life changed. But something that I think a lot of times I have a tendency to always focus out, like, hey, who's the circle around me? Are they increasing my average?
Right.
And one of the realizations that I had was that, whoa, wait a minute. I have to constantly be looking inward to ask myself the question, what kind of value am I bringing to the circle that I'm in? Because it's not all about us, right?
Yeah. I was just thinking about that as you were talking. Yeah, it makes total sense.
It's so true. Like, we have to hold ourselves accountable. We're looking for circles that add value to us. Are we adding value to it?
I think that's probably the biggest challenge that society has.
Yeah.
Are we willing to check ourselves?
Yeah. Most people aren't.
Most people aren't. And I don't know if it could be a pride thing. It could be, I don't really want to be called out. I don't want to be called on the carpet.
Yeah, it's not fun.
But I think the most impactful conversations, whether you're having a conversation with yourself, don't worry, you can have conversations with yourself.
It doesn't mean you're crazy, right?
It doesn't mean you're crazy. Whether you're having that conversation with yourself or someone's having that conversation with you, or you're going to have a conversation with somebody else about their accountability, that's the most impactful conversation you can have. It's uncomfortable.
It is.
I don't like them, but they have to have them. Yeah.
I want to dive a little bit deeper into that word, accountability. It is important. Like, you're going to identify the circle that you have, where you need to make improvements relative to the areas of life that you want to improve in.
Absolutely.
And then slowly, intentionally improve the circle while looking inward to say, hey, what value am I bringing to the circle? Like, if I need a friend, I need to be a friend.
That's right.
If I feel like I'm missing love, then I need to extend love. If I feel like I need grace, I need to extend grace. Like we must be what it is that we seek, right? But I think it's so cool that as we go through that process and as we get really honest and we do that evaluation, like, life just gets better. But here's the question I had for you. You said something a minute ago about accountability. And I know I've heard you talk about this before. accountability that's a two-way street, isn't it?
100%.
Yeah. Can you tell the listeners a little bit about accountability, what people think when they hear the word, and what accountability really is?
Yeah. So what people think when they hear accountability is I'm gonna grind on you. Like I'm going to hold you accountable to everything. And it's like a boss or a manager mentality of like micromanaging over the top of you. Right. And you and I've talked about it a lot. We believe accountability is a two-way street. It's 50% that I'm going to hold you accountable and 50% that you're going to hold me accountable, right?
That's right.
It is. And so whether it's a teammate, an employee, a mentor, whoever it is, a family member, meaning that I'm going to hold you to a standard, but you also have to uphold me to what I say I'm going to hold you to.
Yeah, it's a two-way street. Yeah, it's so important because if you're willing to let people know how, when, where they can improve, you too have to be willing to receive that as well. And one thing that
I'm sorry.
No, please go ahead.
I think you have to sincerely be able to receive it.
Yeah.
Not get offended. Not, so that's an important, you got to have that open conversation to where it's receivable.
Yeah. I will say this. One technique that I have started recently, I would say in the last 6 months, and it has helped so much because you're right. It can be hard sometimes to hear that real sincere criticism, not even criticism, just coaching, right? It's really just coaching. It's a mindset. I have found something that when having those conversations, if I write it down and something happens in between, because like I'm a high I personality and a high S. Whoa, so I like it can hurt my feelings. But
I was about to say, so you're sensitive.
But no, what has helped me tremendously is like as I'm receiving the information, I write it down. I write down word for word whomever it is.
Yeah.
Family member, teammate, whatever the case may be. I mean, assuming that I have pen and paper, that's why it's so important to like define like, hey, I need to have a conversation with you. But when I write it down, there's something that happens during that act of putting pen to paper where it becomes less emotional and my brain is able to process it. We're like, oh, hey, that's good. That has been a huge help for me personally. And so if that helps any of you guys out there, by all means, please take that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great,
it's almost like a hack.
Yeah. I mean, because, you guys are going to hear us talk about disc profile. Like we are huge into understanding the personalities of people in society.
Would love to do an episode just on disc profile.
We could do probably 6 months of episodes on disc profile because not only are people crazy, but they're very intriguing.
Yeah.
To start to understand the personality types of people. And that it goes right back to what you're saying is you can understand how they're communicating with you.
Yeah.
Right. You said I'm a high I and high S. Okay. Well, I'm a high D.
Right.
Which means like I want to have fun, but I'm also like get to the freaking point. Right.
Yeah.
And so I can come off insensitive. So anyway, I don't want to go too far into that, but like it's important that we understand how to receive that information, but also how to give the information to people.
All right. So in review, essentially, take a moment to think about what it is that you're wanting to achieve. You've already written that down. Consider the circle that you have and whether that circle needs to be expanded to bring in some people that can give you a better chance to achieve your goals.
That's right.
Ask yourself about the value that you bring to the circle and how you can just bring value with every interaction. Mm-hmm. Don't be afraid of accountability to receive it or to give it. Understand, and this is a little extra. Accountability is a two-way street. Like if I'm going to tell you what you did wrong, I also have to hold you accountable by telling you what you did right. It's a two-sided coin.
Yeah.
And then just consistent, intentional action taken day after day. Your circle will get better, and so will your life.
Massive action.
Massive
Stick
action.
to those goals.
Act up.
act up. In a good way.
In a good way. That's right. So, hey, guys, we appreciate you tuning into this episode. We look forward to having you for future episodes. I'm JT. He is
Trapper Barnes.
All right, man. There's always room for up. We'll see you next time.